Sri Lanka.
Good evening. This is the national news telecast here live on ChannelEye Rupavahini. I'm Ovin Hettiarachchi, joined by Dolanjali Ananda. At first, a look at the headlines. Two Samagi Jana Balawege parliamentarians and one SLFP parliamentarian take their oaths as cabinet ministers of the all-party government. Party membership of ministers Harin Fernando and Manushanana Kara suspended. The Prime Minister warns of a risk of food scarcity by August. G7 countries back debt relief efforts of Sri Lanka. Issuing of fuel to 4 filling stations suspended for violating rules and regulations. The CID records a statement from MP Namal Rajapaksa in connection with the incident on the 9th. The Ukrainian president accuses Russia of genocide. Now on to those and more stories in detail. At our top story, 9 new cabinet ministers of the all-party government took their oaths before the president this morning at President's House in Fort Colombo.
Among them are parliamentarians representing Samagi Jana Balawege and Sri Lanka Freedom Party. Nimal Siripala de Silva has been appointed as the Minister of Ports, Naval and Airline Services. Cecil Premchand is the Minister of Education. Kiheli Rambukwala has been appointed as the Health Minister. Dr. Vijay Dasa Rajapaksa took oaths as the Minister of Justice, Prison Affairs and Constitutional Reforms. Harin Fernando is the Minister of Tourism and Lands. Ramesh Patrana sworn in as the Minister of Plantation Industries. Manushanana Kara has been appointed as the Minister of Labour and Foreign Employment. Nalin Fernando has been appointed as the Minister of Trade, Commerce and Food Security. Tiran Alas took oaths before the President as the Minister of Public Security.
Meanwhile, MP Lakshman Kirala says that disciplinary action will be taken against Samagi Jana Balawege parliamentarians who accepted ministerial portfolios. Several parliamentarians expressed their views in Parliament today about the new ministerial posts. Parliamentarian Shanta Bandara said that parliamentarians of Samagi Jana Balawege, Sri Lanka Freedom Party and independent parliamentarians have taken positive steps by joining a cabinet on behalf of the people to strengthen the government and to move forward. Parliamentarian Lakshman Kirala said that joining the government is not a decision of the Samagi Jana Balawege. He said they decided to respond positively while being in the opposition without joining the government. Disciplinary action will be taken against those who resigned with the permission of the opposition leader. Parliamentarian Maithripala Sirisena said that some parliamentarians took oaths against party decisions. He said they have decided not on accepting ministerial posts.
Now, Samagijana Balawege has decided to suspend party membership of Harin Fernando and Manusha Nayakara immediately due to accepting ministerial portfolios of the all-party government. Samagijana Balawege has decided to suspend their party membership according to the party constitution when the party has decided not to accept portfolios of a government not supported by Samagijana Balawege and for holding cabinet ministerial posts of the government headed by Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe. The party leadership said that the relevant letters have been sent to the ministers. Now, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe says that there is a risk of food scarcity in the country by August.
The Prime Minister expressed his confidence that a positive response would be received from the international community to find solutions to the present crisis. He mentioned this while giving an interview to Sky Television of the UK.
Congratulations on being appointed Prime Minister. I'm sure you would have liked it to be in very different circumstances. Circumstances which we were just discussing are pretty dire for your country. Who is to blame for the current situation?
Well, I would say the last administration is to blame. And they've run down the economy. We've come to a point where we are bankrupt, which had never happened to Sri Lanka before. We have no dollars, we have no rupees.
And if the current administration is to blame, then have we seen enough punishment for them yet? Of course, the president is still in power. His brother, the Prime Minister, may have stepped down, but their family has essentially run the country for 2 decades. Should the president resign?
Well, that's a controversy because the people at Galface, or the youths, of the view that president should resign. That's a view also held outside and by some of the political parties. On the other hand, the Bar Association of the view that the executive presidency should be abolished. They do not mention anything about the president resigning. So there are 2 different views. I have suggested that once we pass the 21st Amendment, which should restore the original 19th Amendment, strengthening Parliament, strengthening the powers of the Prime Minister, then all party leaders and the President should have a discussion and come to some arrangement on the future course.
In the meantime, clearly there are massive protests across the country, often against the President himself, and seeing very firm responses, a lot of arrests, tear gas at times, and some firm handling by police. What is your view towards those protesters? Can you understand their anguish at the moment, or is it always wrong to take to the streets in the way that some are?
I can understand the anguish of the protesters, the young and the old. The young who see their future being taken away, and the old who see suffering, the middle class who just see their lifestyle collapsing, farmers without fertilizer. There are many demonstrations outside police stations, outside petrol stations and other places. Those are small ones, and it shows the anger, the despair and the hopelessness that the people feel. The demonstration that you have shown now is by a militant youth group who generally carries out at least 5 to 6 demonstrations a year, and certainly their aim is to ensure the water cannons are used on them. But that does not mean that there are no protests in Sri Lanka. They are small protests run by people at the moment when they can't bear the burden any longer. We are not in a, we certainly are not in a very stable position.
I mentioned in the introduction, Prime Minister, that inflation is at 30%, perhaps due to rise to 40%, and you mentioned, of course, the blame that falls on the past administration. Do you think the effects of the war in Ukraine have been felt yet in Sri Lanka, or could things get worse in the short term?
Well, we are feeling the rise in the price of fuel. We are feeling that, and we know it will go higher. Our main concern also is that we have not had fertilizer for cultivation, and this coming season, the rice cultivation season, will not have the full production. Therefore, from about August onwards, there's a possibility of a food crisis in Sri Lanka. That's about the time that the global food crisis will also take place, and we have to see how we survive till about March next year.
And what is your message, Prime Minister, in the short term to potential international partners that could come to your aid on a week when you've had to miss interest payments due on your debt? It's a tricky position, I guess, to seek help at that time, as well as missing those sorts of payments.
Well, we were in default anyway, and we didn't have the money to pay. We have to acknowledge that. I feel ashamed about it, but nevertheless, this is reality. We've been engaging our partners, and they've responded well. We've been engaging with the IMF, but as you know, it takes time. India has been the quickest to respond. We've had money from them, which has enabled us to carry on. But we think in the next few months there will be responses by the other donors.
Now, the group of 7 economic powers support efforts to provide debt relief for Sri Lanka, G7 finance chiefs said yesterday in a draft communique from a meeting in Germany after the country defaulted on its sovereign debt. Reuters reported that G7 countries, in their statement, they were committed to finding long-term solutions for the Indian Ocean nation and urged it to negotiate constructively with the International Monetary Fund on a potential loan program. The draft statement, which is to be finalized before the end of the G7 finance ministers meeting today, also called on other big creditor nations not in the Paris Club to coordinate with the group and urge them to provide debt relief. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe today held discussions with former President and current Speaker of the Maldivian Parliament, Mohammad Nasheed. The Prime Minister's office said during the discussions, the former President of Maldives generously offered to assist Sri Lanka in securing relief for the country from foreign nations. The Prime Minister accepted the former Maldivian President's offer. India has allowed Sri Lanka to... The government of Japan has offered funding to help Sri Lanka address its food crisis. The Embassy of Japan said that Japan has announced a USD 1.5 million funding for the purpose. India has allowed Sri Lanka to settle its $1 billion credit facility in rupee terms. The Reserve Bank of India yesterday said the $1 billion credit facility backed by the government of India that has been provided to Sri Lanka to buy essential goods could be settled in Indian rupee, outside of the arrangement of the Asian Clearing Union arrangement. Now, the International Monetary Fund says technical level discussions with Sri Lanka will be concluded on Tuesday.
The IMF has said it is paying attention to the severe difficulties faced by people of Sri Lanka.
Concerned, of course, about the current economic crisis in Sri Lanka and especially the hardships being endured by the people of Sri Lanka, and especially many of those people poor and vulnerable. So we are clearly monitoring the political and economic developments very closely. Matthew, an IMF team has been engaging in technical discussions on the authorities' request for an IMF-supported program, so they have asked for the program, as I think you know. We talked about this the last time I was here. And there's currently a virtual IMF staff mission engaged in those technical talks with the Sri Lankan authorities, and we expect that to continue, that mission to continue through May 24. So we remain committed to help Sri Lanka in line with the IMF's policies, and will engage with stakeholders in support of a timely resolution of the crisis that is being faced there.
Now, several ministers of the all-party government assumed duties today. Minister Manush Nanayakara assumed duties at the Ministry of Labour. A group of people, including Tourism Minister Harin Fernando, were present on the occasion. Minister Keheli Rambukpala assumed duties at the Health Ministry today at Suwasiripaya. Minister of Justice, Prison Affairs and Constitutional Reforms, Dr. Vijaydas Rajapaksa, assumed duties today at the ministry. Minister Susil Prem Jayant assumed duties this morning at the Ministry of Education. A group of people, including the Secretary of the Ministry, Professor Kapila Pereira, were present on the occasion. Nalin Fernando, who was appointed as the Minister of Trade, Commerce and Food Security, assumed duties today. Minister of Tourism and Lands, Harin Fernando, also assumed duties today. Now, supplying fuel for 4 filling stations has been suspended for violating rules and regulations of the Petroleum Corporation.
The corporation said they would continue to check on such filling stations. A serious situation arose recently when various parties collected fuel stocks to containers. Accordingly, issuing of fuel to containers such as barrels was banned. The Petroleum Corporation has informed the filling stations to issue fuel without attempting to earn unfair profits. Accordingly, fuel is issued for motorcycles for 2,000 rupees, for cars, vans and jeeps for 8,000 rupees. The Petroleum Corporation has informed that the limits are not applicable to buses and commercial vehicles. Issuing of fuel to filling stations at Makkala South, Nalla, Kalaniya, Pettiyagoda and Mirigama has been suspended for violating advice. Meanwhile, long queues were seen near filling station island-wide yesterday and today. Chairman of the Petroleum Corporation, Sumit Vijay Singha, said petrol was unloaded from 2 ships to Indian Oil Company and for the Petroleum Corporation. Fuel is issued from 7 filling stations in the Colombo district for essential services. Colombo District Secretariat Pradeep Yasaratna said that fuel is issued for essential services on a permit issued by the District Secretary or the Divisional Secretary. Also on 3-wheel drivers, the trade union has requested the government to provide them with subsidy for fuel. Our reporters said drivers have parked buses near filling stations in the Hatton town due to shortage of fuel. All 3 filling stations in the town were closed today. The Litro Gas Company says 50,000 gas cylinders were distributed island-wide today. The company said they are continuously distributing domestic gas cylinders from Kerala Centre. They have distributed 35 gas cylinders yesterday. However, consumers were seen staying in queues for purchasing gas in many areas of the country. Protests conducted by blocking the A9 road demanding gas was dispersed by the police. Gas cylinders were issued from a filling station and the unrest after gas cylinders ended was controlled by the police. Litro Gas agent in Navalapitiya town has received 200 gas cylinders after several days. A tense situation occurred when distributing the gas cylinders since the number of gas cylinders was less than the tokens issued by the agent. Police intervened and brought the situation under control. Meanwhile, the army has taken measures to distribute gas to people in several areas. The army controlled unrest when distributing gas in Kolonava area and distributed gas cylinders among the people. Security forces distributed gas among the people in Mathura as well. However, our reporters said people face hardships as they did not get sufficient number of gas cylinders. Sri Lanka's Sustainable Energy Authority says electricity supply island-wide has been disrupted due to the shortage of fuel. It has been requested to people to limit the consumption of electricity until the supply is restored. The authority has requested not to use electricity to light up buildings, signboards and to switch on unnecessary lamps.
The chairman of the Committee on Public Enterprises, Professor Charita Herat, recommended to Litro Gas Company today to distribute 60% of gas cylinders daily in Colombo and Gampa districts. The Parliament discussed yesterday the necessity to look into expediting distribution of Litro gas and other matters. Accordingly, Litro Gas Company management was summoned before the COPE committee today. Litro Gas Company said that there is a shortage of about 3.5 million gas cylinders in the country at present. They said that 80,000 cylinders are being distributed daily from the 2 ships that have arrived. Unloading at Muthurajawala is not taking place due to the prevailing inclement weather. Therefore, the chairman said that there could be a certain delay when the gas ship is brought to the Colombo harbour and when unloading. He said that it will be possible in future to unload gas as usual. Chairman of the Litro Gas Company, which the Herald said that the Indian Credit Line has allocated $160 million to purchase gas. The other company has been given $40 million and Litro Gas $120 million. Although the cabinet approval was given, it was published this week after the process of the Indian High Commission. It can be completed by next week after getting the price this week. Then it will be possible to purchase gas for 3 months. The World Bank has said they will grant a loan of $80 million. Future activities have to be planned on that. A better situation can be expected next month according to the success of these activities.
Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe has instructed the new Trade Minister Nalin Fernando to immediately find solutions to a future food crisis. The Prime Minister on several occasions warned that a food crisis could occur in the country by June. He has instructed the new Trade Minister to appoint a committee and take speedy steps to overcome the situation. The police says the main suspect in connection with the killing of an MP, Amarkirti Atakorala, and his security officer was arrested.
Police media spokesman SSP Nihal Talduwa said that he was arrested today while in hiding in Nitambua area. The suspect has been identified as a person who was connected to the assault from the moment the jeep was stopped. Another suspect was arrested 2 days earlier in connection with the incident, along with the official pistol of the MP security officer. Police suspect that individual would have shot MP security officer Sergeant Jayanath Gunawardana. He is a former soldier. Police media spokesman SSP Nihal Talduwa said that the suspect is a 29-year-old individual resident in Nitambua area. He is also employed as a bus driver.
නමුත් අද දිනේදී ඔහු නිට්ටඹ ප්‍රදේශයේදී අත්අඩංගුවට ගන්නුණා. මොහු නිට්ටඹ ප්‍රදේශයේ පදිංචි වයස අවුරුදු 29ක පුද්ගලයෙක් බස් රථ රියදුරක වශයෙන් කටයුතු කරන බවට තමයි දැනට තොරතුරු අනාවරණය වී තිබෙන්නේ.
The CID has arrested the suspect who set fire on an army bus during the unrest on 31st March at Mirihan area. The suspect has been arrested from Daraniyagala area. The police three-wheeler and 2 motorcycles have also been destroyed due to the fire. The suspect is 42 years old and a worker at spare parts shop at Gangodavila Vijayarama area. Police said he was arrested according to public information received after releasing video footage and photographs to media. Police said another group was arrested yesterday and today in connection with damages to property and violence on the 9th and 10th island-wide. Police media spokesman SSP Nihal Talduwa said that 22 complaints have been received yesterday and 827 complaints have been received so far. 161 suspects were arrested yesterday. The court has ordered to remand 90 suspects produced in court yesterday. 1,220 suspects have been arrested so far in connection with the incidents. 570 have been remanded. Colombo Fort Magistrate ordered today to remand until 25th to suspects, including a woman arrested for assault on groups protested in front of the temple trees and presidential secretariat. They were remanded after being produced before Magistrate Tilina Gamage by the CID. The magistrate ordered prison officials to produce them for an identification parade on that day and to provide them with necessary security at the prison. The CID informed court that there was a senior DIG, ASP and nearly 2,000 police officers in Kolupitia when the incident took place on the 9th. The CID officers have informed that the investigation is conducted by getting statements of all of them. Addressing the CID officers, the magistrate asked whether the police received information that the person who came to assault are scheduled to be moved towards Face Green from Kolupitia. It is usual for the police to place 2 roadblocks during such a protest. The magistrate pointed out if the first roadblock was breached, the protesters would be dispersed at the second roadblock. The magistrate said it is a problem as to why the police did not act like that during the incident. The CID said it is being investigated. 15 have been arrested and remanded in connection with the incident.
Speaker Mahinda Abeyewardene says that issuing food from the parliamentary canteen will be stopped for 52 Sri Lanka Podujana Peramana parliamentarians, according to a request made by them. At the commencement of the parliament today, the speaker said issuing food to other members would be decided during the party leaders' meeting. Speaker Mahinda Abeyewardene said that he had been handed over a letter with signatures of 52 Sri Lanka Podujana Peramana parliamentarians yesterday for refusing to get food from the canteen of the parliament. Steps will be taken to issue food for them, and the decision for other parliamentarians will be informed to the parliament after discussing it with the party leaders.
Parliamentarian Sampath Athikorala said that a member announced yesterday morning that parliamentarians are given fuel for 120 rupees from Narahimpita police filling station, making it impossible for members to go on the road. Not only the member misled the parliament but created a commotion in the country. A letter was given with 53 signatures to close the canteen. We request to close it and provide a food parcel for a fair price.
Parliamentarian S.M. Marikar said that certain parliamentarians give incorrect statements. Whether the parliament meets or not, nearly 1,000 work in this. He requested the peace speaker to disclose the country the expenses for a day when parliamentary meets and on other days when the parliament does not meet.
Parliamentarian Buddhik Patran said he did not say that parliamentarians bought fuel for 120 rupees. If there is a fault in the machine, it should be mentioned. The petroleum minister solved it.
Parliamentarian Dallas Alha-Perama said that 600,000 children are going to sit for the GCE O-level examinations on Monday. They are in a state of uncertainty due to the fuel shortage. There is no transport minister at present. The commitment has to be made on behalf of the lives of these children. Samagi Janabalawegaya says that an investigation could be conducted against persons who are responsible for the present economic crisis and the law enforced against them.
MP Harshna Rajakarna mentioned this during a media briefing in Colombo today. MP Harshna Rajakarna said that the question is how to solve the problems faced by the people. When there is an economic crisis in the country, persons such as Basil Rajapaksa were staying with all facilities. No one who created the problems should be allowed to go free.
The protest in front of the golf race Green Presidential Secretariat is conducted for the 42nd day today.
People arrived from various areas of the country and stayed at the place last night. The protesters stayed overnight at the place, shouting slogans. A salon was open for the protesters yesterday. Meanwhile, a postal letter was received yesterday for the first time by the legal division at the place. The address was Convening Group, Legal Division, Gotago Gamal Struggle Place, Colombo 1. A new monument has also been built near the coast of Golf Face Green.
Our reporters say there is an increase in certain varieties of vegetable at Dambulla Special Economic Centre. The arrival of traders and produce have been reduced by about 50%. Traders and farmers say that vegetables received by the economic centre is reducing due to fuel and fertilizer crisis, and farmers are not cultivating as usual. The traders say although they are receiving certain quantities of vegetable from the upcountry, certain other varieties of vegetable were not received. The officials said although traders came to purchase limited stocks of vegetables, they rejected the purchase due to the high prices. The business community said selling of a kilogram of tomatoes for the whole price of 700 rupees was significant for the Dambulla Economic Centre.
And we have more news from home in brief. Christian Skug of UNICEF and UNICEF Sri Lanka resident representative Emma Briham met opposition leader Sajith Premadasa at his office in Colombo. The US ambassador in Sri Lanka, Juliet Chang, called over on Navy Commander Vice Admiral Nishant Ulugetana today at the Navy headquarters. MP Ajit Rajapaksa assumed duties yesterday as the Deputy Speaker of Parliament at his office. A suspect has been arrested by the CID along with 295 grams of heroin in Godagama, Aturugiriya. The 37-year-old suspect is a resident of Paduka area. A case related to the death of Chaminda Lakshan, who died in a police shooting during a protest in Rambukana town, was heard for the 10th day today before Kegol magistrate Wasna Navaratna. The magistrate ordered to remand the suspects, Kegol former SP and the 2 constables, until the 1st of next month. That's all we have on local news. Stay tuned for international stories coming up next.
හොඳම දේ විශ්වාසයෙන් ට්‍රීට් කරන්න. Prima Treats. Life is a treat.
நாடு விட்டு நாடு சென்று நாளும் உழைத்த பணத்தை வீட்டுக்கு அனுப்பும் போது பரிசு குவியல்கள்.
நீங்கள் வெளிநாட்டிலிருந்து அனுப்பும் பணத்தினை மக்கள் வங்கிக்கு அனுப்பினால் பரிசு குவியல்கள். People's Remittance கோடி அதிர்ஷ்டம். அனுப்புங்கள், வெல்லுங்கள்.
Now on to foreign news. We're looking at the crisis in Ukraine. President Volodymyr Zelensky has repeated allegations that Russia is committing genocide in Ukraine, condemning the attacks on civilian structures as deliberate and with malice.
The President Zelensky said life had become hell in the eastern Donbas region, which had been completely destroyed. Meanwhile, Russian forces are continuing their offensive around the strategic eastern towns of Lysychansk and Severodonetsk, Ukraine has said. Ukraine claims to have repelled 14 Russian attacks and destroyed 8 tanks among other vehicles. Russian shelling in Ukraine's eastern region of Luhansk has killed 13 civilians over the past 24 hours, regional governor said. 12 were killed in the town of Severodonetsk, where the Russian assault has been unsuccessful, and more than 60 houses were destroyed across the region.
That's it for tonight's English news telecast. Thank you for joining us. Good night.
ලංකාවේ ළමාගේට විතරක්ම තියෙන එකම චාට් ෂෝ එක